Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So here we can cover Wave 3 of the Bard Buffs. These are the changes all going to the preview server, open for testing and open for feedback on the Neverwinter Discord server. However, I've done some initial testing with all of those changes, combining all the waves together, and yeah, it appears if they push Bard like this to live, Bard would for sure, in my opinion, be like the top spot in terms of damage. They're pretty powerful right now. I'll get into why a little bit later. I'll put timestamps on the play bar below where you can skip to the sections you're most interested in. Now this is the second update this week already. Only just 2 days ago, we got this big update where we had adjustments to the at-wills, Contrae, Dancing Lights, Ballad, Lunge, and also here the passive features with more adjustments to the con at-will, and then like Ado and Ballad Call a Voice. All those adjustments already improved the damage by a decent amount. And then we had the announced future changes that were going to be coming to Performer, Mystifying Strikes, Redoublement, and Loremaster. And we have all of those now, along with a few other things. And that is this list. So, con motto, they did go ahead and fix the targeting with that. So you're not going to be stuck with it not casting where you want it to. Now it will actually go exactly where you point, regardless of where your character's facing. Now there was a weird change to Lunge, where they've gone and reduced the cast down to just one. I'm not sure why that's the case. Maybe it's a bug, or it's intended. We need to get confirmation on that. But from there we get into the beef of things. Mystifying Strikes. It doesn't look like much has changed, but yeah. They've gone and made it so it cannot multi-proc. It will not trigger more than once when your allies attack your target. So rather than being able to trigger per ally within like that 1 second, it can only correctly trigger on one person's attack, not everybody's. It is still a decent amount of your damage, like 7 to 8%, and so it still is a pretty impactful class feature. You're just not going to see upwards of 20 to 30% that you would get in those trials. They did adjust the tooltip as well. It was saying 500 magnitude there. That's just damage over time. That's saying the total magnitude instead of what it was. It's just displayed at 50. They also went and updated this class feature. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it now has a 20-second duration instead of just 10, which means you can rely on this to be always active along with these other two features, which are also 20 seconds. Because you'll be always having that ballad up. Usually that's how you want to be playing it, and the ballads last 20 seconds, and as soon as it expires you use the finale just before it ends, and then you cast it again, and you'll always have this benefit. I just don't see how effective it's meant to be compared to masterable performance. Same with this feature here. How are they supposed to compete with this giving 10 magnitude along with a 2% buff to all your damage? But moving on with that, Redoublement did get fixed properly, so it will give you the damage buff when you interweave your encounter powers. I mean, that's what they say. They've adjusted the tooltip a little bit as well, and hopefully it works as expected. Then moving on, we have the Performer feat, and this was changed pretty significantly in a way that gives you a lot more damage now. So the improvised encounters, rather than being just 50% of your encounter power, it's going to deal 100% of your encounter power. Basically, when you trigger an improvised version of one of your encounter powers, you just get a free cast of the encounter power again at full magnitude. You get an improvised dancing light? Yes, that's straight up 1,000 magnitude attack you can just use there. Same chance as well, so while you're attacking your target just there with your at-wills, you have that chance to trigger those improvised versions and you get the dotted outline, and it basically now will deal full damage, which is very good for a burst scenario where you want to have full damage on those encounters. You don't want to be having them reduced when you want to be maximizing your amount of damage, and that's the main reason they adjusted this. They didn't change the chance, which kind of makes it very powerful, very powerful. We'll get into that, but they've also reduced the total amount of stacks that you'll need for Grandstand Encore down to just 10. This is pretty huge. Means that you just need 10 improvised encounter procs and then you'll be able to cast your grandstand like Ballad of the Hero. Ideally, you can see you gain these star stacks just up here, playing to the audience, and when you hit 10 of those, you'll be able to get the grandstand effect. We can see we just currently have the Heroes Encore, the normal version, but if we get one more improvised proc, there we go, play it, and now we have Grandstand Encore. This basically will give it double the magnitude. Don't know if they fixed the visuals of them stacking right here. I actually don't know if they stack. They could well stack. Yeah, that's just a visual bug. They don't actually stack. You'll still only get one hit of Ballad. But ultimately, I done some tests with that new performer mode, and it's very impactful. We see that right here, nearly 800,000 encounter DPS. Improvised versions of encounters hitting the same as your normal encounters. You see the average damage hits there about the same on the improvised and the normal one. You get that as well with dancing lights and improvised dancing lights. You're basically, gaining double the amount of encounter powers as you normally would, doubling that damage. It's pretty massive and a very easy way to play as well. It's just all spam, spam, spam. Keep up Ballad of the Hero, keep up Tailwind, Mambo, and you're good. One thing it kind of lacks is burst damage a little bit, but to be honest, when you consider getting Grandstand Encore nearly every artifact call now because of it only needing 10 stacks, you should be able to take advantage of those artifact calls by having double damage on your Ballad of the Hero. You still will miss a bit of burst damage, but that's where you might want to switch over to the Loremaster if that's your goal, because that has been updated as well. You can see that with the feat changes just here, so it will no longer give you 10% additional damage depending on the damage type. This is to make it a little bit more friendly to use, and it means you aren't missing so much damage if you don't have the right elemental song active when using lore. It's been rebalanced a bit more so that you shouldn't need that 10% extra damage. We can see the rework here where you just need 5 stacks of battle research, and then you can gain 100% damage buff to all your encounter powers and ballad finales for 5 seconds. And to trigger that, you must either cast lore or press research. Again, once you have the 5 stacks. How this works now is, again, when you don't have your daily powers, you can now cast research. You can spend 2 seconds casting it, and it gives you one of these book icons, battle research. But when you're just in combat fighting, you will also gain battle research just on a chance when you're attacking. We're now on 3 stacks, but you can get those stacks up to 5, and once you actually get to 5, you now have the ability to activate exploit, and this will enter you into ready to exploit. What this means is you can gain 100% damage boost for 5 seconds to all encounter powers used and your ballad's finale. So that means your Ballad of the Hero effectively can be 1600 magnitude. And yeah, all of your encounter powers nearly getting doubled. Of course, that 100% unfortunately is a damage buff and not multiplicative, meaning the more other damage buffs you have that you stack up, that kind of will get diminished. And it does make Loremaster a little bit more lackluster. So you can see that here. We don't have our daily power full, but we can activate this exploit, which will enter us into that state, which means as soon as we're in combat here, we make sure we have our ballad up. We can go activate that by just clicking it, and then we need to get all of our encounter powers out and our hero's finale, and bam, that's our burst damage. You only have a 5-second short window there to make the most of it. And again, you need to make sure you're casting that lore when you have those 5 stacks as well, which is the daily power. Once your action points are actually full, it will show that right there. And then you can use that for the damage buff, the team support, and then you're combining it with Loremaster as well to gain the 100% damage buff for that duration. You will have to prepare for yourself. You will have to be set up for artifact calls that you actually have 5 of these battle researches. It's a bit more complicated than Performer, that's for sure. And unfortunately, with all my testing I've done, Loremaster just fell behind in damage compared to the ease of Performer and just the sheer raw damage Performer has now, with all those free casts of encounter powers which are just the same as the originals. The way you would play Loremaster, at least the way I figured you should be, is, yeah, of course, just maintain your Tailwind, Mambo, your Elemental, Song buff, and then have your Ballad here of the Hero up as well. If you have 5 of these books and you have lore active, you will of course be going casting lore, then all of your encounter powers and your hero's finale. Then of course you'll go cast Ballad of the Hero again. And then you're just back to attacking using encounter powers when they're off cooldown. Now when you don't have your daily power, then yeah, you will be wanting to activate that exploit when you hit 5 stacks, but you need to prepare for it as well. Now what's really cool is you can combine that with Tacticians. So again, once we get to 5 stacks here of these books up in the top left, we can see, there we go. We get the key icon here as well, so it easily shows you that. You can now activate this and get double the damage on these encounters, and we want to have the Ballad up. And this is not having your daily power full. You just simply activate that and then you go cast them all, plus your hero. And that's it. And you can combine that with Tacticians. That triggering exploit is considered a daily power for that bonus, allowing you to cut your cooldowns. But again, even with that cooldown reduction, I did not find Loremaster to be that powerful. Not compared to Performer at all. So far, my best test was 676,000 encounter DPS. Compare that versus Performer, which you can see nearly got 800,000 encounter DPS. So there's like a 20% damage difference there, and that's pretty big, especially since Loremaster requires such more thoughtful play style. You aren't just spamming your buttons. At some points you need to make sure you're letting your cooldowns finish and then have your encounter powers ready before you trigger your ready to exploit 5-second duration to get the extra buff before you cast your daily power. And you need to make sure you're casting your daily power when you actually have 5 of these stacks, because if you're not, then you're not gaining the extra damage in that burst window. It's be very hard to time properly, I feel, and I think right now they need to increase the amount of percentage chance you have to gain these book stacks. Like, we can attack here for like 30 seconds and it'll take that long to actually get 5 of these stacks. So yeah, I mean, it is random then as well. So you might be trying to prepare for an artifact call and might not end up with 5 stacks and be kind of screwed over. There needs to be a bit more predictability to it. However, with Loremaster aside and just looking at what they've done to Performer, yeah, I find it's very much overtuned compared to the other classes. Compare this nearly 800,000 encounter DPS to other classes, all in single target, same tests here, just using encounter powers and class features and abilities, excluding daily powers and mount powers, and that's our DPS. Like, I did not use any daily power right here, no mount powers either, so no use of Tacticians, nothing. And this is what you're getting. And as for the other classes I've tested in this exact same way, this is how it's ranking. Yeah, Songblade may be a little bit overtuned. You have to be aware though, Songblade doesn't have like a big hit daily power. If they use Grandstand Ballad of the Hero, you're gaining maybe 1,000 magnitude versus another class which is going to have 2,000 magnitude on a big hit daily power. So they don't have as big of a burst potential. But in terms of just DPS, damage per second with at-wills and encounter powers and class abilities, Bard is pulling way ahead. Again though, this is only wave 3, and they did say they were still gonna look at balancing. For now they want to fix up bugs, make reworks to things so that they're more easily adjustable, because the way the things were working before, I assume the devs had not much clue, and it was a bit of a spaghetti cloud in terms of what did what. And yeah, Bard really was a real mess. Feats and features were just not working as intended whatsoever. So yes, things are still in development. We'll see how things go. But right now, if you want to test on the PC preview server, you'll probably notice it dealing a ton more damage in single target versus other classes. With that said, I'll keep you guys up to date. Hopefully Bard Songblade does become in a very competitive state without having to crutch Mystify like it did here. You'll see a whopping 28%. This is kind of ridiculous from a feature that's heavily reliant on your team. But I'm sure some of you who got used to that are going to miss it in certain content. I'm personally not going to miss it because it made Bard DPS just really suck in like dungeons and in content where you need to kill a target without having all your allies there to also kill it. It made you be pretty bad in solo content. It made you pretty bad in just public queue content. And these changes should help significantly with that. Just the base performance going way up. Once again, a massive thank you to all of these channel members for their added support, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.